Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lukenessmonster. This is Ask Lukenessmonster, episode 92, the series on the channel where I answer your guys' questions from the comments down below. So if you guys do want your questions answered in next week's video, make sure to comment down below on this week's video and I'll try my very best to answer it. Make sure to go down, hit that like button, and subscribe as well. It helps out the channel a lot more than you know, and I really appreciate it. The first question says, with Jesse and Fives being now released, what are the chances of ARC Trooper Ekko getting an archive release? Great question, and honestly, we don't really know the chances. I'd hope that we get a re-release of some sort of Ekko because he is a highly desirable clone that is kind of hard to get right now. He was hard to get to begin with, but obviously now on the aftermarket, he is, $50, $60, $70 on the aftermarket, so he is rather expensive too, which is a shame. So I really do hope they archive him or they do some sort of re-release, whether that's in like the new Clone Wars packaging or what. But I hope they do something to get him back on the market. But like I said, I don't know if there's any good chance we'll get a re-release of him anytime soon. The next question from SideQuester, he asks, what is a subline, example carbonized or archive, of Black Series you think Hasbro should make? A great question from SideQuester, and SideQuester is actually a channel member, and channel members get super cool perks here on the channel, including a really cool clone trooper name badge that actually changes the longer you're a member, as well as exclusive emojis you can only get from the Lukenessmonster channel. To answer his question, my most wanted subline would have to be a quote-unquote Legion line. This is what Out of the Basement named it on their channel, so make sure to go check out their channel. They are linked in the description, but basically the Legion line is a line of strictly army builders, to where it doesn't matter if they're battle droids, clone troopers, stormtroopers, rebel soldiers, it doesn't matter, but it's just a line of army builders. The repaints are endless, and really that's all they are. They're just different legions of different things, and this is really cool because they're repaints of molds we already have, like the Stormtrooper or Clone Trooper, so it's one of Hasbro's, I guess, as you could say, shameless repaints, but this line is specifically for them just to make different clone battalions or different Stormtrooper paints. You know, it's kind of like the credit collection where they're just repainting molds, but it's actual in-universe mold or in-universe characters that we've seen, which I think is super cool and super useful. The next question says, if you could sit down and discuss with any Star Wars actor, who would you choose and why? Great question. I think if I could have a discussion with any Star Wars actor, it would have to be Mark Hamill. For starters, he just is a really nice guy, and I would love to get to meet him. But I also think it would just be great to discuss what his experience with Star Wars was, as well as a lot of his other projects, because he's been in a ton of stuff. He does a lot of voice acting for like the Joker and some of the Batman animated stuff, and a lot of other stuff too, so it'd be really cool to get just kind of his perspective on acting and everything like that. So it would have to be Mark Hamill for sure. The next question says, do you think that Hasbro should do action figures for the Halo franchise or other video games? Great question. I'd love to see what video games they could do. As far as Halo goes, I don't really think they need to. Jazzware already has the Halo license. They pump out 6 or 7 inch Halo figures, and they're pretty dang good figures already. Are they the same quality as Hasbro's figures? I don't think they're quite there, but they are pretty good. So as far as Halo goes, I don't think that Hasbro necessarily needs to do it, but there's a ton of video games out there that don't have action figure lines, and I think Hasbro could definitely take over some of those and make some really cool figures. The next question says, do you think it's possible for us to get a Senate Commander like the version from the Clone Wars or some of the other guards from the Forces of Evil 4-pack? So, great question. I definitely think it's possible at this point. Anything is possible for the Black Series. You know, it might be a few years off, but I do think we'll get this figure at some point. I honestly, though, I hope we just get a single release of that standard Senate Guard at some point. It was exclusive to that Guardians of Evil 4-pack, and we haven't gotten a single release of that blue Senate Guard, so I'd love to see that at some point. But I do think the Senate Commando or Commander or whatever with the white markings would be super cool to get at some point as well. The next question says, now that we got a lot of separatist droids pipelined, Which would you most like to see next? Really, really good question, and there are quite a few, but I think the most important is going to go to a tie of two different characters, and that has to be between the Commander, which is the battle droid with the yellow markings, and then the Commando droid. So that's just like the brown one that has like the vibro sword. Both of those ones are super cool, and they're very important for your separatist ranks, so I would love to get a version of both of these. Hopefully now that we're getting more separatist, it's rather sooner than later, but at this point I would just be happy to get them. The next question says, what did you think about the Balin and Shin Black Series figures? Do you think there'll be any change in Shin's head? Great question. I absolutely loved Balin. Balin looks incredible, and I found nothing wrong with that figure. As far as Shin goes, I really wanted to like the figure. And honestly, I'm still going to buy it because I really like the character. But there is definitely something off in the head. I don't know if it's the face or the hair or both. But this one just wasn't hitting like Balin did. But like I said, I still think she looks great. I'm definitely picking her up. But no, I don't think they're ever going to change the head. It's definitely a problem, but they're not going to change it. It's too far into production to take it back and change it. So no, they're not going to change it. The next question says, what do you think the next Black Series HasLab will be? And what would be your Dream HasLab? And then what would be your most wanted Black Series helmet that hasn't been done yet? Two really good questions, so thank you for asking them. First up, what do I think the next Black Series HasLab will be? I personally think that it's either going to be between an AT-ST or it's going to be between a Mando, like Naboo Starfighter. I think both of those are really good choices for HasLabs, and I do think that they're definitely in that right scale for a $250, $300, $350 HasLab, which I think is right where Hasbro wants to be for Black Series. As far as my Dream HasLab, that one's pretty tough because I honestly just want anything they'll give me for a Black Series HasLab. But I think my dream one would have to go to a HasLab ATTE. I think that would be just absolutely incredible. It's definitely large, and it would be towards that $500 price point for a HasLab. But as far as the scale goes, it is actually very similar to what the HasLab skiff or the sail barge was, because that was about 50 inches long, and this would come in at about, I want to say, 47, 48 inches long. And so as far as the scale goes, this is totally in like reasonable area for a HasLab. And so, you know, obviously this is going to be a very expensive set, but as far as scale goes, I would absolutely love this, and it would definitely be a Dream HasLab. And to answer the second question, a helmet that I'd want would definitely have to be a Commander Cody helmet. That would be incredible. The next question says, do you think that Jango Fett and the recent Return of the Jedi Boba will get a release on the archive? As far as Jango goes, I hope not, just because I really like Jango, and the figure that we have really sucks. It's not a good figure, and if anything, I would hope that they would just completely remake the figure. And as far as Return of the Jedi Boba Fett goes, if they did an archive, it wouldn't be for many years. At this point, he just had a re-release in 2023, and so like they've had 2 releases of this figure within the last 3 years. And so, like, an archive is a long ways away, but if you're still needing to get this figure, you can still get him at most major retailers, as well as online and on, like, aftermarket. He's still relatively, I believe he's under retail price, so if you need him, he's still relatively cheap. And then the last question for today from 80s Kids from the 90s, he asks, could we get an updated Darth Maul for Phantom Menace 25th anniversary next year? I really hope so. The Darth Maul that we have from Phantom Menace is one of like the first figures in the Black Series, and it really sucks. So I really hope they go ahead and make a whole new mold, whole new body for that Darth Maul. Will it happen? Probably not, but I would love to see that in the line. So, you know, fingers crossed, but like I said, I'm not sure if that we ever would. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Ask Lukenessmonster. If you did enjoy, the like button and subscribe. And if you do want your questions answered in next week's video, make sure to comment down below in this week's video, and I'll try my very best to get to it next week. And there were a ton of great questions in this episode that I didn't get around to answering, so if it's one that you really want answered, consider like recommenting it again on this week's episode. And like I said, I'll try to get to it next week. But one way to guarantee that your question does get answered is that all channel members get 100% like priority reply to comments. So if you really want to guarantee your question gets answered, become a channel member, hit that join button down below, and like I said, all channel members get guaranteed replies during Ask Lukenessmonster. Anyway, though, that's going to do it for this episode. Like I said, hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.